I'm Jenna Harper, and in a glass-walled executive boardroom at Clearwater Solutions in Seattle, I calmly walked to the screen, clicked Properties, and exposed my own name in the metadata of the presentation my sister Chelsea was pretending was hers, right in front of our CEO and half the company. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because what I did next to my own sister still makes my hands shake when I think about it. Was 8:17 a.m. in the open plan office of Clearwater Solutions in downtown Seattle, and I was standing by my desk, still in my coat, when my little sister decided to gamble with my entire career. "You owe me this job," Chelsea said, leaning against the edge of my workstation like she owned it. "Family helps family." I set my coffee mug down harder than I meant to. It cracked against the glass surface with a sharp, humiliating sound that made two analysts glance up from their monitors. "Lower your voice," I muttered. She smiled, smug. 24 years old and still somehow convinced the world was a soft couch she could collapse into. From my phone on speaker, our mother's voice chimed in, syrupy and firm. "Jenna, sweetheart, she just needs a chance. You've always landed on your feet." I closed my eyes for half a second. I'm 32. I fought for every promotion in this company. I built my department from 3 people to 12. I have one goal this year: secure the executive director role and finally step out of the shadow of reliable but rigid Jenna. And now this. "She was fired," I said carefully, keeping my tone even, "for showing up drunk to a client event." "It was one mistake," Chelsea shot back. "God, you act like I robbed a bank. You embarrassed your entire firm. And you've never messed up," she snapped. "Must be nice being perfect." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "This isn't about perfection. It's about responsibility." Mom sighed dramatically through the speaker. "Jenna, you've always had it easier." I actually laughed. It came out brittle. "Easier?" "Yes," she insisted. "You're disciplined, focused. Chelsea isn't like you. She needs support, not judgment." Chelsea crossed her arms. "Just put in a word with your boss. That's all I'm asking. You're a department head. You have influence." Influence. The word tasted dangerous. At Clearwater, my reputation is currency. I'm known for precision. For standards, for not cutting corners. If I recommend someone and they fail, that's on me. "You don't understand how this works," I said, lowering my voice as 2 of my team members walked past. "If I bring you in and you mess up." "I won't," she interrupted. "You said that at your last job." "That was different." "How?" I demanded. She faltered for a second, then lifted her chin. "Because now it matters." "It always mattered," I said. "You just didn't treat it that way." Mom's tone hardened. "Jenna Harper, I did not raise you to abandon your sister." Abandon. The word hit harder than it should have. I swallowed. "I'm not abandoning her, I'm protecting myself." Chelsea stepped closer, lowering her voice. "So that's it, you care more about your precious title than your own sister." There it was, the accusation I've heard my whole life. The ambitious one, the cold one, the one who doesn't bend. "You know what?" she continued. "Maybe you're just scared I'll actually do well." I stared at her. "This isn't a competition." "It's always been a competition," she shot back. "Mom and Dad comparing us, you getting the praise, me getting the lectures." I felt something twist in my chest. "That's not my fault." "No, but you sure enjoy it." I picked up my mug, then set it down again before I shattered it completely. "You were fired for showing up drunk. That's not a personality quirk, Chelsea, that's a liability." She rolled her eyes. "It was one networking event." "It was your job." Mom's voice softened again. "Jenna, please, just talk to your director. She can start entry-level, prove herself." "Entry-level in my department, under my supervision. If Chelsea fails, it's my credibility. If she succeeds, it's because I handed her the ladder." "I can't risk my reputation for someone who doesn't take anything seriously," I said finally. The silence that followed was thick. Chelsea's expression shifted from pleading to fury. "Wow," she said quietly. "You really think you're better than me?" "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said." She grabbed her bag. "Forget it, I'll figure it out myself. Don't worry, I won't stain your perfect little career." "Chelsea," but she was already walking away, heels striking the polished floor like punctuation marks. Mom stayed on the line. "You're being selfish," she said. "One day you'll regret choosing work over family." The call disconnected before I could respond. I stood there in the middle of the office, surrounded by sleek white desks and the low hum of productivity, feeling like I'd just been pushed onto a chessboard I never agreed to play on. "My objective is simple: become executive director this year." "Earn it," Own it. Finally prove that my success isn't luck, it's discipline. But if my family keeps pulling at me like this, I don't know what will break first. And as I watched Chelsea disappear through the glass doors of Clearwater Solutions, I had no idea that this argument was only the opening move. The next morning in my parents' cozy Bellevue kitchen, I sat at the breakfast table between my mother and father like I was 12 again, not a department head with a six-figure salary, and a corner of the Seattle skyline outside my office window. The smell of cinnamon oatmeal filled the room. It was almost peaceful. Almost. My mother, Linda Harper, set a bowl in front of me like she was offering a peace treaty. My father, Richard, folded his newspaper with deliberate calm, his silver hair still damp from the shower. "You didn't have to come over," I said, wrapping my hands around my coffee mug. "Oh, I think we did," Mom replied sweetly. "Families talk things out." Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister didn't sleep much." I stared at the steam rising from my cup. "That's not my fault." "She feels like you don't believe in her," Mom said. "I don't believe in her work ethic," I corrected. Mom sighed. "Jenna, you've always had it easier." There it was again. I looked up slowly. "Easier? You're naturally disciplined," Dad said carefully. "Chelsea's more free-spirited." "She was fired," I said flatly, "for showing up intoxicated to a corporate event." "It was one mistake," Mom insisted. "It was the last mistake in a pattern," I shot back. Mom reached across the table, placing her hand over mine. "She just needs someone to give her structure. You're so good at that." I almost laughed. Structure, as if I were some kind of rehab center. Dad leaned back in his chair. "You've built something impressive at Clearwater. We're proud of you, but what's the point of success if you can't lift your own sister up?" The words landed heavier than they should have. I swallowed. "If she fails, it reflects on me." "She won't fail," Mom said quickly. "You can't promise that." Chelsea's voice floated in from the hallway. "I can." She appeared in the doorway, hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, makeup perfectly done. She looked polished, intentional, calculated. "I'll prove you wrong," she said, stepping into the kitchen. "I'll be early, I'll work late, I'll do whatever it takes." I studied her. "For how long?" "As long as I have to." Dad gave me a pointed look. "She deserves a chance." I felt cornered. Not by volume, not by shouting, by softness. By expectation. I've always been the reliable one, the one who fixes things, the one who absorbs pressure so everyone else can stay comfortable. And my objective this year, my promotion, my expansion into executive leadership depends on me being untouchable. "If I recommend her," I said slowly, "she starts at entry level, no shortcuts." Chelsea nodded immediately. "Fine. She reports to me. Obviously. And if she screws up even once," I continued, my voice steady now, "she's out. I'm not covering for her, I'm not cleaning up her mess, I won't risk my credibility." Mom exhaled in relief like I'd just agreed to donate a kidney. "That's fair," Dad said. Chelsea didn't hesitate. "Deal." I narrowed my eyes. "Do you even understand what that means?" "It means I don't mess up," she replied lightly. "No," I said. "It means I won't save you." For a flicker of a second, something unreadable crossed her face, then she smiled. "You won't have to." Mom squeezed my hand. "I knew you'd do the right thing, right thing." Chelsea pulled out her phone, thumbs already moving. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Texting Brianna," she said casually. She angled the screen away, but not before I caught the message preview. "Got the job." My stomach tightened. "You don't have the job yet," I said sharply. She shrugged. "You said you'd recommend me." "I said I'd speak to HR." "Same thing." "No, it wasn't." Dad stood satisfied. "See, crisis resolved." Resolved. I finished my coffee in silence, watching my sister grin at her screen while my parents exchanged relieved glances. The kitchen felt warm, domestic, calm, but beneath that calm, something was shifting, because I didn't feel generous. I felt trapped. And as Chelsea kept typing, already celebrating a position she hadn't earned yet, I had the unsettling sense that I had just signed a contract with consequences I couldn't fully see. And the worst part, if this goes wrong, it won't be Chelsea who pays first. It'll be me. On Monday morning in the sleek lobby of Clearwater Solutions, I stood by the security gates at 8:55 a.m., scanning the elevator doors while pretending not to. Chelsea's official start time was 9:00. "She'll be here," I murmured to myself, checking my watch. At 9:07 my phone buzzed. "Chelsea, traffic is insane lol. 5 mins." I exhaled slowly. 5 minutes I could handle. By 9:45, the lobby had emptied. My team was already in the Monday briefing without me. I'd sent Lana, my senior analyst, a quick message to start without me. At 10:32, my phone buzzed again. Chelsea, parking is a nightmare downtown. Why didn't you warn me? I closed my eyes. At 12:58 p.m., the elevator doors finally slid open. Chelsea stepped out like she was walking into brunch, not her first day of employment. Oversized black sunglasses covered half her face. She held a bright green matcha latte in one hand and her phone in the other. She saw me and smiled. Hey. It was 1:02 p.m. You're 4 hours late, I said quietly. She glanced at her watch like she'd just noticed time existed. It's my first day. I figured it would be mostly paperwork. I stared at her. You figured. She removed her sunglasses slowly. Relax, Jenna, I'm here now. My jaw tightened. You didn't call HR, you didn't notify anyone except me. I texted you. That's not the same thing. She rolled her eyes. You're so intense. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Internal extension. Jenna Harper, I answered. Hi, Jenna, this is Claire from HR. Could you step into conference room C for a moment? My stomach dropped. Of course. Chelsea leaned against the wall. Am I in trouble already? She whispered with a half smile. I didn't answer. Conference room C had glass walls, transparent, exposed. Claire Whitman sat at the table with a thin file in front of her. Early 40s, polite, sharp. Have a seat, she said gently. I folded my hands in my lap. I'm aware she's late. Claire gave me a measured look. 4 hours late. She had parking issues, I replied automatically and immediately hated how that sounded. Claire raised one brow. Jenna, this isn't a good reflection on your judgment. The words were calm, professional, but they hit like a slap. I understand, I said. You personally recommended her, Claire continued. We bypassed other applicants, I swallowed. She assured me she was ready. Claire tapped her pen lightly. When a department head sponsors someone, we assume due diligence. Due diligence. Translation, you vouched for her, now we're watching you. We'll proceed with onboarding, Claire said, but we'll be monitoring closely. Both of you, she didn't say it out loud, but she didn't have to. When I stepped back onto the floor, my chest felt tight. Chelsea was chatting with Lana at the reception desk, laughing at something on her phone. Lana glanced at me. Her expression flickered curiosity, maybe concern. How'd it go? Chelsea asked brightly. I kept my voice even. You're assigned to data processing under my supervision. Cool. You will be here at 8:45 every morning, she saluted lazily. Yes, ma'am. This isn't funny, she leaned closer. You're overthinking this. Everyone loves me. I looked around the open floor, rows of white desks, glowing monitors, quiet efficiency. This is not a place that runs on charm. This company runs on accountability, I said quietly. She smirked. Then I'll be accountable. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of onboarding forms and muted embarrassment. Every time someone glanced our way, I felt it. Whispers, not loud, just subtle. The reliable Jenna brought in her reckless sister. At 5:12 p.m., after I walked Chelsea through her login credentials and basic workflow, she stretched dramatically. See, she said. First day done, no disasters. I stared at her. 4 hours late. HR warning. My credibility dented before she'd even opened a spreadsheet. She promised she'd be responsible, I muttered under my breath as she packed her bag. What? She asked. Nothing, she grinned. Told you this would be easy. Easy. As she walked toward the elevators, I remained at my desk long after everyone else left, staring at my performance dashboard on the screen. My promotion review is in 3 months. Every metric matters, every impression. And now there's a new variable attached to my name. Chelsea Harper. And I can already feel the ground under my reputation shifting, quietly but unmistakably. 3 weeks later, long after the rest of Clearwater Solutions had gone dark, I sat beside Chelsea under the dim hum of fluorescent lights, staring at a spreadsheet that looked like it had personally offended me. It was 8:47 p.m. You're subtracting projected revenue from operating cost twice, I said, tapping the screen. Chelsea groaned dramatically. No, I'm not. Yes, look. I scrolled up, right here and again in the summary tab. She leaned closer, squinting. Oh, I bit the inside of my cheek. Breathe, Jenna. For the past few weeks, this had been our routine. I would finish my actual job by 6, then stay to coach her through formulas, reporting templates, client summaries, things I learned over years of trial and error. I don't get why this is so complicated, she muttered. It's not complicated, I replied evenly. It's precise. She shot me a look. You say that like it's a personality trait. It is. She rolled her eyes, but she corrected the formula. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted. My evenings used to be quiet, gym dinner, maybe a glass of wine and silence. Now they were Excel tutorials and whispered arguments. You know, she said suddenly, not looking at me, you're actually good at explaining this stuff. That's in my job. No, I mean, she hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard, you don't make me feel stupid. Not like professors did. The comment caught me off guard. I'm not trying to make you feel stupid, I said carefully. I'm trying to make you competent. She huffed a soft laugh. You're so intense. And you're not intense enough. She grinned sideways at me. For a second, it felt like we were kids again at the kitchen table, me helping her with algebra homework while she doodled hearts in the margins. Okay, I said, straightening. Let's run through the client summary one more time. She sighed but complied, reading from the screen. Based on Q3 projections, Clearwater anticipates a 14% increase in operational efficiency provided cost controls are implemented in Phase 2. Stop, I interrupted. She froze. What? That's good, her eyebrows lifted. Good like good. Yes, I pointed at the analysis. You connected the cost variance to the efficiency gain, that's exactly what Morgan wants to see. She stared at the screen, then at me. Wait, really? Yes, really. A slow smile spread across her face. Not smug, not defensive, genuine. Maybe I'm not hopeless, huh? She said softly. The words landed differently than I expected. Maybe you're not. I studied her profile in the low office light. She looked tired, focused, less performative than usual. Run it again, I said, but my voice had softened. She did, cleaner this time, more confident. By 9:32 p.m., we were printing the draft. As the printer whirred, she leaned against the counter. You didn't have to stay every night. Yes, I did. You said you wouldn't cover for me. I'm not covering, I replied. I'm training. She considered that. I know I messed up at my last job, she said quietly. I was spiraling. I didn't respond immediately. You don't have to defend it, I said. I'm not, she replied. I'm just saying I don't want to mess this up. I searched her face for sarcasm. There wasn't any. You won't, I said finally. If you decide not to, she gave me a half smile. That's such a you answer. The printer stopped. I handed her the report. Tomorrow, I said, you'll walk Morgan through this section yourself. Her eyes widened. What no? Yes, she'll eat me alive. She respects preparation. Chelsea looked down at the pages in her hands. I'll be there, I added, not to save you, just to observe. She nodded slowly. Okay. We walked toward the elevators together, the office quiet and almost peaceful. Hey, she said as we waited. Thanks, I glanced at her. For what? For not giving up on me. The elevator doors opened before I could respond. On the ride down, I felt something unfamiliar creeping into my chest. Hope. Maybe she just needed structure. Maybe she just needed someone to expect more from her. Maybe this could work. As we stepped out into the cool Seattle night, she bumped her shoulder lightly against mine. See, she said. We make a good team. I looked up at the glowing Clearwater logo above the building entrance. I have 3 months until executive review. If she keeps improving like tonight, this gamble might actually strengthen my leadership profile. And for the first time since that breakfast in Bellevue, I allowed myself to think something dangerous. Maybe she can turn this around. Maybe I didn't just risk my career. Maybe I just invested in it. At 6:58 p.m. on a Thursday in our downtown Seattle office, I was packing up my laptop when Lana's voice cut across the floor. Jenna, did Chelsea send the Westbridge data file? My stomach dropped. She had it finalized this afternoon, I replied. Why? Lana turned her monitor toward me. The shared drive folder was empty. The executive review call starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow, Lana said carefully. I need that report tonight. The office was nearly empty. Only the soft glow of monitors and the low hum of the ventilation system remained. I checked my phone, no message from Chelsea. Was she at the 4 p.m. sync? I asked. Lana hesitated. She didn't show. My chest tightened. She didn't show, I repeated. No, I assumed you'd reassigned her. I grabbed my phone and stepped into the hallway dialing. It rang 4 times. Hey, Chelsea answered, music pulsing faintly in the background. Where are you? I asked. At Maya's birthday thing. Why? You missed the 4 p.m. team meeting. Oh, she paused. Was that today? Yes, and the Westbridge report isn't on the drive. Silence. I thought you were reviewing it, she said finally. I reviewed it, you were supposed to upload and distribute it. I didn't know it was that important, geez. My grip tightened around the phone. It's for an executive client. She exhaled audibly. Okay, relax, I'll send it when I get home. It needed to go out 2 hours ago. Another pause. Well, I'm not home, she replied lightly. Can't you just resend it? I closed my eyes, feeling the last fragile thread of optimism snap. Where the hell were you? I demanded, my voice dropping lower, hoarser than I intended. At a birthday, she repeated. You said I could have a life. I said you could be responsible, she sighed. You're being dramatic. I stared at the dark window across the hallway, my reflection looking older than 32. Email me whatever version you have, I said tightly. Now, I'll try, service is bad. The line went dead. I walked back to my desk slowly. Lana looked at me without asking the question out loud. I'll handle it, I said. By 8:14 p.m. I had pulled the backup draft from my email. It was incomplete, missing 2 updated datasets and the cost variance adjustments we'd finalized yesterday. Of course it was. At 9:03 p.m. the office was empty. At 10:47 p.m. my eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. At 12:16 a.m. I found 3 calculation errors she'd never corrected. At 1:52 a.m. my phone buzzed. Chelsea just got home, everything good, I didn't respond. At 2:37 a.m. I rebuilt the executive summary from scratch. At 3:04 a.m. the cold glare of my desk lamp was the only light left on the entire floor. The office felt cavernous. Hollow. This wasn't mentorship. This was cleanup. My voice felt raw when I finally called her again. She answered groggily. Yeah, I've been here all night, I said. Silence. I didn't know it was that serious, she muttered. That's the problem. You're acting like I burned the building down. You jeopardized my department, she yawned, actually yawned. You're always so intense about everything. I stared at the spreadsheet in front of me, numbers crisp, corrected, stabilized. I told you, I said slowly, if you screw up even once, oh my God, she cut in. You're not going to fire me over one missed upload. It wasn't just an upload, you skipped a meeting, you ignored deadlines. It's corporate data, Jenna, no one died. The dismissiveness hit harder than the mistake. No one died, I repeated quietly, but trust erodes fast. She was quiet for a second. I'll do better, she said, but the conviction wasn't there. I ended the call without replying. By 5:41 a.m. the report was sent. Polished. Perfect. Entirely rebuilt by me. I leaned back in my chair as the first hint of Seattle dawn seeped through the windows. 3 weeks of late-night coaching. 3 weeks of cautious hope. And one careless evening was all it took to remind me who I was really dealing with. When the office lights flickered back on at 7:00 a.m., I hadn't slept. And as employees began filtering in, coffee in hand, unaware of the disaster that had almost unfolded overnight, I realized something quietly devastating. I wasn't training my sister. I was protecting her from consequences. And that's exactly what I swore I wouldn't do. On Sunday evening at my parents' house in Bellevue, I sat at the dining table staring at a perfectly roasted chicken while pretending my life wasn't unraveling one spreadsheet at a time. The dining room looked the same as it had when I was 16. Cream walls, polished oak table, my mother's crystal bowl in the center like a symbol of fragile perfection. Chelsea was scrolling through her phone under the table. Of course she was. So, Mom said brightly, passing the potatoes. How's work going for you girls? Girls, I took a slow breath. Busy, Chelsea shrugged. It's fine. Fine. Dad carved the chicken with unnecessary force. Chelsea mentioned there was some confusion about a report. Confusion, I set my fork down carefully. There wasn't confusion, she skipped a meeting and didn't send a required file. Chelsea rolled her eyes. It was one thing. It was an executive client. Mom waved her hand dismissively. You're in corporate analytics, Jenna, it's not brain surgery. The casual minimization felt like a pin sliding under my skin. I stayed until sunrise fixing it, I said. Chelsea snorted softly. You didn't have to be dramatic about it. I wasn't being dramatic, I replied evenly. I was being responsible. Dad looked between us. Why didn't you just remind her, because she's an adult? I did remind her, I said. Multiple times. Chelsea finally looked up. You don't have to make it sound like I'm incompetent. Then stop acting like you are. The air shifted. Mom sighed loudly. Jenna, this is exactly what I mean. You've always been so uptight. There it was, uptight. I laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Uptight? Yes, she insisted. Everything is life or death with you. Chelsea just approaches things differently. By not approaching them at all, I shot back. See, Mom gestured at me like I'd proven her point. You're attacking her. I'm stating facts. Chelsea leaned back in her chair. You love this. Love what? Being the responsible one, the martyr, staying up all night so you can tell everyone how hard you work. The accusation stunned me. I didn't tell anyone, I said quietly. I'm telling you because you're my parents. Dad cleared his throat. Let's not escalate. She doesn't care, I said, my voice steady but colder now, and I'm cleaning up her messes. Chelsea's jaw tightened. You're exaggerating. I rebuilt your report from scratch. Because you don't trust me to fix it. Because you were at a birthday party. Silence fell over the table. Mom's expression hardened. It was one mistake. It's a pattern, I said. Late, absent, defensive. Chelsea pushed her chair back slightly. You act like I'm ruining your life. You're jeopardizing my credibility. Oh my God, it's always about you. I stared at her. You begged me for this job, and you agreed. Yes, with conditions. Mom placed her napkin down sharply. This is exhausting. I know, I said. All three of them looked at me. I'm exhausted, I continued. I have a promotion review coming up. I'm under scrutiny because I vouched for her. And instead of acknowledging that, you're all treating me like I'm unreasonable. Dad frowned. We just think you could be more supportive. Supportive. I felt something inside me settle, not explode, settle, calm. I have been supportive, I said quietly. I trained her after hours, I defended her to HR, I stayed up all night fixing her mistakes. Chelsea crossed her arms. You didn't have to. No, I agreed. I didn't. Mom's tone softened, but it wasn't kind. It was patronizing. Jenna, you've always taken things too seriously. Maybe if you loosened up a little, people wouldn't feel so judged. Judged, the word hit like ice water. I'm not judging her, I said. I'm expecting her to do the bare minimum. Chelsea's voice sharpened. You think you're better than me. I think I work harder than you. That landed. Dad set his fork down. Enough. No, I said calmly. I'm done pretending this is fine. The room went still. I'm done being your backup plan, I said, pushing my plate away. Every time she stumbles, I'm expected to catch her. Every time I hold her accountable, I'm the villain. Mom's face flushed. That's not fair. It's accurate. Chelsea stood up. If you hate helping me so much, maybe you shouldn't have offered. I didn't offer, I replied. You cornered me. She stared at me like I'd betrayed her. You've changed, she said. No, I answered. I've just stopped absorbing everything quietly. The tension wasn't loud anymore. It was heavy, boiling beneath the surface. Dad finally spoke, his voice tired. What do you want, Jenna? I met his eyes. I want her to take responsibility, Chelsea scoffed. I am. You're not, I said simply. Mom shook her head. You're blowing this out of proportion. Maybe I was, or maybe I was finally seeing the pattern clearly. I stood up, smoothing my blazer. I have work to finish, I said. Chelsea laughed bitterly. Of course you do. As I walked toward the door, Mom called after me. You're going to regret pushing your sister away. I paused. I'm not pushing her away, I said without turning around. I'm stepping back. And for the first time I meant it. The next morning, beneath the pale gray Seattle sky filtering through Clearwater's floor-to-ceiling windows, I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my inbox chimed. Subject, quick chat, 10:30 from Morgan Hayes. My stomach tightened. Morgan Hayes, Director of Operations, didn't send quick chat emails unless something was already wrong. At 10:28, I stood outside his glass-walled office. From the outside, it looked serene, minimalist desk, perfectly aligned files, the skyline stretching behind him like a silent witness. Come in, Jenna, he said without looking up. I stepped inside, closing the glass door gently behind me. Morgan finally lifted his gaze. Early 40s, composed, unreadable. Have a seat. I did. He folded his hands. I received 2 emails this morning. My pulse ticked upward. Regarding department errors, a pause. Specifically, he continued, inaccurate preliminary data in the Westbridge review packet. My throat tightened. I'd corrected that report, personally. I fixed those numbers before submission, I said carefully. Morgan tilted his head slightly. That's interesting. He turned his monitor toward me. The timestamp on the file was 7:02 a.m., the version Chelsea had initially saved. not the final corrected version I'd sent. That's not the file I submitted, I said, my voice steady but colder now. Morgan studied me. Chelsea indicated she handled the final upload. There it was. She didn't, I replied immediately. I rebuilt the report overnight. Morgan's eyes narrowed just slightly. That's not what she said. I held his gaze. Those mistakes weren't mine. Silence stretched between us. She told me, he continued, that she completed the updates herself and that you approved them. A flicker of heat ran through my chest. She didn't complete them, I said firmly. She left early. I corrected and submitted the final file personally. Morgan leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping once against the desk. Then why, he asked calmly, do I have an internal version saved under her credentials at 7:02 a.m.? Because she uploaded the wrong draft. Because she didn't check. Because I was exhausted and trusted that one simple task was done. I can forward the final email thread with timestamps, I said. You'll see I sent the corrected version at 5:41 a.m. Morgan didn't immediately respond. Instead, he stood and walked toward the window, hands in his pockets. Jenna, he said quietly, still facing the skyline, when you advocated for bringing your sister into this department, you assured me she wouldn't compromise performance. I know, and yet, he continued, turning back to me, within a month I'm receiving complaints with her name attached. My name, I corrected softly, because she's under me. He didn't disagree. That's leadership, he said. You carry the weight of your team. I swallowed. I accept that. But understand this, he added, voice cooling slightly. We're watching both of you now. The words hung in the air like a verdict. I'm aware, I said. Morgan stepped closer to the desk. You're up for executive review soon. I know. You've built a strong case, but bringing personal dynamics into professional spaces. He let the sentence trail. I won't let this continue, I said, more sharply than I intended. He studied me for a long moment. Make sure you don't, he replied. I stood. Forward me the timestamp evidence, he added. I'll review it. I will. As I reached the door, he said one more thing. Jenna, I paused. Perception matters as much as performance. The glass door clicked softly behind me. Back at my desk, the office looked exactly the same as it had an hour ago. Calm, ordered, efficient, but my hands felt colder. Chelsea was at her workstation, typing quickly. She glanced up when she saw me. How'd it go? She asked casually. I walked over slowly. Did you tell Morgan you finalized Westbridge? I asked. She blinked. I mean, I uploaded it. You uploaded the wrong draft. She frowned. It's basically the same. No, I said quietly. It wasn't. She looked around, lowering her voice. Why are you making this a big deal? Because you told him you handled it. She crossed her arms. I did handle it. You didn't fix the errors. You approved it. I corrected it. Her jaw tightened. So now you're throwing me under the bus? I stared at her. I stayed up all night fixing your mistake, I said. I'm not taking the blame for it. Her expression hardened. You're unbelievable, she muttered. No, I replied calmly. I'm done absorbing consequences that aren't mine. The open office floor buzzed quietly around us, unaware of the fracture widening between us. Morgan was watching. HR was watching. And for the first time, I realized something chilling. Chelsea wasn't just careless. She was rewriting reality to protect herself. And if I didn't draw a line soon, that rewritten version would become the official one. It was 3:15 p.m. in the sterile white break room of Clearwater Solutions when I decided I was done having quiet conversations. Chelsea was leaning against the counter, stirring sugar into her coffee like the world wasn't cracking beneath my feet. We need to talk, I said. She didn't look up. You're really into that phrase lately. This isn't a joke. She sighed dramatically and set her spoon down. Okay, what now? You told Morgan you finalized Westbridge. I did finalize it. You uploaded an incomplete draft and let him believe I approved it. Her expression sharpened. Why are you obsessed with blaming me? I'm not blaming you, I replied evenly. I'm correcting the record. She let out a short laugh. God, you sound like a robot. This isn't about tone, it's about integrity. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You're making me look incompetent. I'm asking you not to lie. I didn't lie. You said you handled the corrections. I handled it. She insisted, voice rising. You didn't fix the errors. You're twisting it. The air in the break room felt too thin. I stayed up until sunrise, I said quietly. I'm not letting you tell leadership you did work you didn't do. Her eyes flashed. So what, you want credit, you want a medal? I want accountability. And I want you to stop trying to control everything. I'm not controlling. Yes, you are, she snapped. You hover, you micromanage, you act like I'm incapable. You skipped meetings, you missed deadlines. It was one deadline. It was a pattern. That word, pattern, her face changed, not defensive, strategic. Suddenly her eyes glossed over, her shoulders slumped, and before I could register the shift, her voice cracked. I can't believe you, she whispered. I froze. You're just trying to ruin my life, she said louder, tears spilling now. Because Mom loves me more. The accusation hit like ice water. What? I breathed. You've always hated that, she continued, voice trembling. You've always resented me. That's not, you're sabotaging me on purpose, she cried. The door opened. Claire from HR stepped in mid-sob. She stopped short, eyes flicking between us. Chelsea turned toward her like she'd been waiting for an audience. I'm trying so hard, she choked out. And she keeps attacking me. My mouth actually fell open. Claire, I started. That's not what's happening. Chelsea wiped her cheeks dramatically. I just want to do well here. Claire's expression tightened into professional neutrality. Is there a problem? She asked calmly. No, I said immediately. Yes, Chelsea whispered at the same time. Claire's eyebrows lifted slightly. I pulled her aside to clarify a reporting issue, I said, forcing my voice steady. There was miscommunication about the Westbridge upload. Chelsea shook her head, tears continuing. She's been undermining me since day one. My pulse pounded in my ears. That's not true. She doesn't want me here, Chelsea said, looking small, fragile. Claire studied me carefully. Jenna, she said gently, can we keep conversations constructive? They are constructive, I insisted. Chelsea let out a soft, broken laugh. See, this is what I mean. I felt like I was watching a performance unfold in slow motion. This is a professional discussion, I said carefully. It's about documented errors. Chelsea covered her face. You're humiliating me. In a private room. Claire stepped forward slightly. Let's de-escalate, like I was the volatile one. I'm calm, I said, but my voice sounded tighter than I wanted. Claire gave me a look that was polite but warning. Chelsea, she said softly, why don't you take a moment? Chelsea nodded, sniffling. I stared at her stunned. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a narrative shift. She wasn't defending herself anymore. She was reframing me, as cold, as controlling, as jealous. Anna, Claire added quietly, we encourage supportive leadership. Public perception matters. Public perception. Morgan's words echoed in my head. Perception matters as much as performance, I swallowed. This isn't personal, I said. Chelsea looked up, eyes red and glossy. It feels personal. The break room felt smaller, brighter, exposing. For the first time I saw it clearly. She wasn't just careless. She was willing to weaponize vulnerability. Claire placed a gentle hand on Chelsea's shoulder. Let's reset, I nodded slowly. Of course. But as I walked out of that break room under the sterile office lights, one realization settled deep and cold in my chest. I wasn't just managing my sister. I was being positioned as the villain in her story. And if I didn't move carefully from here, that version would stick. It was nearly 7:00 p.m., and the office had settled into that soft, after-hours quiet where even the air conditioning sounds reflective. I was sitting at my desk, staring at absolutely nothing on my screen. Lana appeared beside my cubicle wall like she always did when something was wrong. You look like someone just accused you of corporate manslaughter, she said gently. I let out a dry laugh. Close, she leaned against the partition. Break room drama, my head snapped toward her. You heard. Claire's face said everything when she walked out. I hesitated, then gestured to the empty chair beside me. Sit. Lana Patel, senior analyst, razor-sharp, allergic to nonsense, sat down and folded her hands in her lap. She cried, I said flatly. Chelsea, yes, full performance. Lana didn't even blink. Strategic, I stared at her. You saw it too. I've worked in corporate environments for 15 years, Lana replied calmly. Tears are rarely accidental. I exhaled, tension leaking from my shoulders. She told HR I'm undermining her. Lana tilted her head slightly. Are you? No. Correcting her mistakes? Yes. Then you're managing her. I rubbed my temples. It doesn't matter. Now I look like the cold, controlling sister. Lana's eyes softened, but her voice stayed steady. Jenna, can I ask you something? Please, why are you still covering for her? I'm not. You rebuilt Westbridge overnight. I went quiet. You shield her in meetings, Lana continued. You rephrase her errors, you soften her misses. That's leadership. That's babysitting. The word landed clean. It's my responsibility, I said weakly. No, Lana replied gently. Your responsibility is the department, not your sister's ego. I looked down at my hands. She'll crash, I said. Then let her. The simplicity of it startled me. I vouched for her, I whispered. And that was generous, Lana said, but generosity doesn't require self-destruction. I swallowed. She's telling a different story upstairs, Lana added. And if you keep protecting her, that story becomes the truth. Silence stretched between us. The office lights were dimmer now, most desks empty, the city outside turning navy blue. I thought I could train her into responsibility, I admitted. You can't train accountability into someone who doesn't want it. I felt something inside me loosen, not anger, clarity. What would you do? I asked. Lana didn't hesitate. Document everything. Stop correcting what she breaks. Let leadership see the pattern without your fingerprints smoothing it out. I stared at the glow of my monitor. For weeks, I'd been absorbing impact. Cleaning, correcting, containing. I'm tired, I said quietly. Then stop carrying it. I leaned back in my chair. I'm done enabling her, I said slowly, testing the words. Lana nodded once. Good. It didn't feel explosive. It felt steady. Whatever happens next, she added, standing, make sure it's based on facts, not family. As she walked away, I remained there in the warm lamplight of my desk, the office nearly silent. For the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about how to protect Chelsea. I was thinking about how to protect myself. And the difference between those two things had never felt so clear. At 4:42 p.m. the day before our executive board presentation, I opened the shared drive folder and froze. Empty. The main PowerPoint file for tomorrow's executive strategy review was gone. Not renamed. Not moved. Gone. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I checked the recycle log. Nothing. Version history. Blank. This was the presentation. The one tied directly to departmental funding. The one Morgan would use to evaluate leadership readiness. My readiness. I stood up slowly and walked to Chelsea's desk. Chelsea, I said, keeping my voice controlled. Where's the board presentation file? She didn't even look up from her screen. What do you mean? It's missing from the shared drive. Now she glanced up, mildly annoyed. I don't know, maybe you forgot to save it. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. I finalized it yesterday, I said. You were organizing the visual updates. She shrugged. I logged off around 5. It was there when I left. It's not there now. She swiveled her chair lazily. Did you check properly? My pulse spiked. Yes, I checked properly. She sighed like I was inconveniencing her. I don't know what to tell you. For a split second, I considered arguing. Accusing, demanding. Then Lana's voice echoed in my mind, document everything. Stop fixing what she breaks, but this wasn't just what she breaks. This was my executive review. I turned back toward my office without another word. By 6:03 p.m. the floor was empty. By 7:27 p.m. I had reconstructed the outline from memory. By 9:41 p.m. my eyes burned from staring at slides I could recite in my sleep. City outside was black glass. The office dark except for my single desk lamp casting a sharp cone of light across the keyboard. Every chart rebuilt. Every data point revalidated. Every projection double-checked. At 12:18 a.m. my hands trembled from caffeine and fury. Whether it was negligence or something worse didn't matter right now. What mattered was this: tomorrow morning I would walk into that boardroom prepared. At 2:06 a.m. I saved the file. On 3 separate drives. I leaned back, exhaustion pressing into my bones. If this was a test of endurance, of credibility, of resolve, I wasn't going to fail it. Not because of missing files, not because of manipulation, and definitely not because of my sister. At 8:58 a.m. the next morning, I stepped into Clearwater's executive boardroom with my flash drive in my hand and stopped. Chelsea was already at the front of the room. My slides were projected behind her. Morgan sat at the head of the table. 2 board members flipped through printed packets. The CFO leaned back, listening. And as you can see, Chelsea was saying smoothly, the projected efficiency increase comes from Phase 2 cost restructuring. My breath went still. She stole my work. I didn't interrupt. I walked to an empty chair along the glass wall and sat down, hands folded neatly in my lap, face calm. Let her talk. For 5 full minutes, she moved through my presentation. My language, my charts, my projections. Then the CFO leaned forward. Can you clarify how you calculated the adjusted variance in slide 12? Chelsea paused. Oh well, the variance is based on the projected input adjustments. That's vague, he replied mildly. What formula did you apply? Her mouth opened, closed, she clicked back to the slide. I used the standard. Which standard? Morgan asked quietly. Silence. A faint flush crept up Chelsea's neck. It's in the data set, she said weakly. The CFO tilted his head. Walk us through it. She couldn't. The room shifted, not loudly, but perceptibly. I stood, calm, measured. Would you like clarification? I asked evenly. Morgan looked at me. Please. I walked to the front of the room, standing beside my sister. Up close I could see the panic in her eyes. I turned to the screen. The adjusted variance, I began clearly, was calculated using a weighted operational input ratio cross-referenced with Q3 labor compression metrics. The CFO nodded slowly. That's correct, he said. I clicked to the File Properties window. Before we continue, I added lightly, let's check the metadata for version tracking. Chelsea inhaled sharply. On the screen under author Jenna Harper, created 2:06 a.m. last modified Jenna Harper. A quiet gasp rippled through the room. Morgan's expression hardened. The CFO leaned back. So, he said slowly, you prepared this? Yes, I replied calmly. Chelsea's voice trembled. Worked on it together? No, I said, still composed. You uploaded an earlier draft yesterday. The final version was reconstructed overnight. Morgan stood. Chelsea, he said evenly, please take a seat. She didn't move at first, then she did, small, silent. I continued the presentation without looking at her again. Clear, precise, unshaken. By the time I finished, the room felt different, not tense, certain. As I stepped back from the screen, Morgan met my eyes. Well done, Jenna. And for the first time in weeks, my dignity didn't feel fragile. It felt restored. At 10:17 a.m., less than an hour after the board presentation, Morgan asked me to step back into his office. The same glass walls, the same skyline, but the air felt different. Close the door, he said. I did. He didn't sit this time. He remained standing behind his desk, studying me. That, he said finally, was gutsy. I didn't respond. And brilliant. My shoulders lowered a fraction. Let the situation expose itself, he continued. You didn't react emotionally, you relied on facts. I relied on documentation, I said quietly. He nodded once. Which is exactly what executive leadership requires. My pulse ticked upward. Effective immediately, he added, sliding a folder across the desk. You'll be leading strategic operations, expanded oversight, direct reporting line to me. I stared at the folder, promotion. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt earned. And Chelsea, I asked. Morgan's expression cooled slightly. HR is handling it. As if on cue, through the glass wall, I saw Claire walking across the floor. Chelsea followed behind her. No sunglasses today, no smirk, just a pale face and stiff shoulders, a small white envelope in her hand. Claire stopped by Chelsea's desk while security stood discreetly nearby. The office was silent. Chelsea gathered her bag without looking at anyone. When she reached the elevators, our eyes met. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Anger, humiliation, blame. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. She hesitated, then followed. The doors slid closed, sealing us into a small mirrored box of truth. She stared straight ahead. You didn't have to humiliate me, she muttered. I didn't, I replied evenly. You did. Her jaw tightened. You could have handled that privately. You presented my work publicly. Silence. The elevator descended. You brought this on yourself, I said quietly, not cruelly, just clearly. She didn't answer. When the doors opened in the lobby, she walked out without looking back. I remained inside for a moment longer. Breathing, not triumphant, not vengeful, just steady, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. And for the first time, I hadn't bent. 6 months later, on a bright Saturday afternoon in Seattle, I stood in the center of my new department floor, watching my expanded team move with quiet efficiency. Strategic operations. My name now sat beneath the title director. No asterisk, no shadow. Morgan had given me full authority to rebuild the structure the way I saw fit. Clear reporting lines, transparent accountability, weekly documentation reviews, no blurred responsibility, performance over personality. The irony wasn't lost on me. Lana leaned against my doorway. Your leadership profile just went live on the company site. I smiled faintly. Already, she held up her phone. Congratulations, Director Harper, Director. It still felt unfamiliar in my ears. Across town, I knew Chelsea had taken a job at a private middle school as part of their facilities staff. Mom had mentioned it in a carefully neutral tone over the phone weeks ago. She's figuring things out, she'd said. I didn't ask for details. That night I received a message request on LinkedIn. Chelsea had viewed my profile, no note, just the notification. I stared at it for a long moment before closing the app. Some things don't require commentary. A week later, my parents asked to visit. They arrived at my condo quieter than usual. No speakerphone interventions. No subtle guilt. Mom folded her hands in her lap. Dad looked around my living room like he was seeing it properly for the first time. "We're proud of you," he said. Mom nodded. "We should have handled things differently." I let the silence sit. Not sharp, not forgiving, just present. "I'm not angry anymore," I said calmly. "But my life is on my terms now." Mom blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means no more pressure, no more emotional bargaining, no more expecting me to clean up what I didn't break." Dad nodded slowly. "That's fair," he said. We talked for an hour, light things, neutral things. When they left, the apartment felt peaceful. Not lonely, peaceful. That Sunday, I hosted a small dinner for Lana and two new team leads. Laughter filled the space. Respect moved easily around the table. No manipulation, no comparison, just adults accountable for their own lives. As I washed dishes later, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. Calm, steady, stronger than before, this story didn't end with revenge. It ended with clarity, with boundaries. With dignity restored, not because I humiliated someone, but because I refused to lie down for them. If you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect, tell me, where are you watching from, and what did you choose? Because sometimes the bravest thing a woman can say isn't, "I forgive you." It's my life, my terms.